Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jeremy. Welcome to the Greatest Access tutorial ever. We're going to be looking at episode 1.2, which is Learn Database Table Relationships. Let me adjust this camera really quick because I may have made a... There we go. Just a little bit of a change. Hope you have your coffee. Today I have a different mug. This looks like a Canon lens because I am a Canon photographer occasionally, right? So I like all brands, but I just happen to shoot Canon at this time. R6, if you're curious. Let's get started. Good stuff. Okay, so now we're starting to get into why we do database stuff. Again, this is a beginner course. This is Learn Database Table Relationships. And you may hear in the terminology, well, Access is a relational database. Well, this is why. They're data relations. You'll see what that means shortly. All right. If you're following the main quest line, so if you're new to this channel and you just happen to jump into this episode, well, what it is if you know nothing, absolutely nothing about Microsoft Access or databases, this is kind of the order in which you should be following these. This is also a playlist in the channel itself. So if you open the channel and go to playlist, this will be called the main quest line. Right now we're going to cover database table relationships, and then next we get into basic SQL. I'm so excited. Okay, next. And this is what we're going to look at, data relationships. Now notice I have in parentheses parent/child. Okay, so let's take a hypothetical example. Let's say I have a table of car makes. So these are brands of cars basically. And remember what we said in, I believe it was around episode 1.1, table basics, right? Is that each table in a database is just about one very specific subject. So in this instance, you're going to see that there's an entire table of car makes and there another entire table of car models, right? And so over here we have just two fields in this very simple table. ID, which is the primary key, and remember a primary key cannot repeat in this column, and it's how we uniquely identify that row. And then in this table over here we have an ID, also primary key, and then the title of car models is the field, and then we have some data pulled in here, right? So what's going on here? So in the database, we're trying to describe, in this instance, car makes and then the models of cars that belong rather to those car makes. So for instance, I have these 6 car makes over here, and then I know I have car models, various models over here. There's obviously much more in the real world, but in this example, we'll just keep it simple. And I want to somehow tell the database that, like for instance, the model ID1, which is the Civic, belongs to Honda, right? So how do I do that? So in this instance, the parent is the originator of the model, right? And the model over here is the child. So what that means is you only have one parent in database land. You don't have two. You have one parent, right? That parent can have many children, but the child must always have a parent. And you'll see what happens if they don't. So this is kind of a notional data setup. So what's going on here? So sometimes you may hear the phrase one to many, many to one. Don't get caught up on the terminology. All that means, if you understand how databases work, all that means is this. So Chevrolet has a Colorado, right? Ford has a Mustang. Honda, you'll notice, has 2 blue arrows in this particular instance, a Civic and an Odyssey, Hyundai Tucson, Mazda 6, Toyota Camry, right? So how do we link car models to car makes? How do we indicate that this particular car model, the Civic, belongs to the Honda? Well, we give it what's called a foreign key. Now we have 2 keys so far that we've talked about. Primary key, which is how do you identify a very specific row in the table, in this particular table. The foreign key is a primary key from another table that you're referring to. So if you kind of follow the numbers, you'll see what I'm talking about. So for instance, Civic has, I just use an annotation FK make ID, right? So that lets me know as a database guy, okay, I'm probably pointing to the car make. You could name this FK car makes ID. You could just say car makes ID. I always use FK to indicate, okay, that's a foreign key. And then if we go to 3, the make, okay, that goes to Honda. So I wouldn't need these arrows. I could look at these numbers and say, okay, 2 is Ford, 3 is another Honda, right? And then what we have here is basically describing a one-to-many relationship. There's only one car make, one unique car make, oops, sorry, on this table. One, only one, but one car make may have many car models, which is how it works in the real life. And that's pretty much it. It's super simple. So again, 99.999% of the time, you're going to want to use an auto number for your primary key. They're just really easy. They don't take a lot of space. We'll get further into that if you keep following the episodes when we talk about primary keys and indices. But this is it. You just, one car make can have many car models, one-to-many relationship. Too easy. Now, there is a situation in a database that is really bad, just as it is bad in real life, and that's called an orphan. And what is an orphan? So let's say we're messing around in this table, and we don't have any of our safety checks on, and we decide, you know what, I just want to delete row 3, Honda. I am not a Honda fan. This is pretend me. I actually drive a Honda Ridgeline. I like it. It's a great little mid-sized truck. But let's pretend I want to delete Honda. Now, if I don't have any checks into play, what happens is in this table over here, we still have Civic and Odyssey pointing to the foreign key number 3. Well, if you remember from episode 1.1, if you don't know, go back. If you use an auto number key and delete that key, you can never reuse that number again in that table, ever. Can't type it in, you can't beg, you can't plead, you can't borrow. So someone goes in who thinks they know what they're talking about, deletes row 3, Honda's gone. Now you have what's called orphans, which are children without a parent, or pointing to a parent that no longer exists. They are from a parent who no longer exists in the database. In this case, it would be Civic is pointing to 3, which is no longer a car make, and Odyssey is pointing to 3. Now you may think, well, what's so wrong about that? It could be minor, it could be really major. It just depends on what your database is doing with that data. It's not a good thing, regardless of whether it's a minor or major incident. So yeah, that's one thing we want to avoid. And there are checks that Access gives you where you can avoid that, so let's look at them. So now we're going to jump to our test database here. So far, we don't have much of anything. We have a simple table of colors, which is just, again, primary ID key. We have the name of the color, and we have the cost per ounce. Now you'll notice in my example over here, I was using car makes and models as the example. Why the hell am I jumping over to colors? That's because, well, we're not there yet. Sometimes we have to jump around. So, okay, if you're catching up and you haven't been following, this is a simple table. We'll use this in the future. And then we have a simple form color list. Now, this is a simple continuous form. This is from episode 2.3 where I kind of went through form formatting and the different types of forms, form basics. You can watch episodes 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 if you really want to catch up on that. That's all this table has so far. No queries, no code, no nothing, right? So now let's get started. First, we're going to do this. We're going to go to create. We're going to go to table design, and we're going to make a new table of car makes. Now I'm going to give it ID. I'm going to start typing A for auto number. I'm going to hit primary key. This is my primary key. And then I'm just going to do car make. Car make is a short text. I'm going to hit Control S for save. TBL, car makes. Too easy. Now let's go in and type in the stuff. Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, Hyundai. I can't type today. Mazda and Toyota. Pretty simple stuff. Now we have a table of car makes. Close that out. Hit create again. Table design. I'm going to do the same thing. ID, auto number, primary key. This is car model. Table, car models. Now we're going to type this in. Now, you'll note that I'm only doing these two fields over here. Oops, sorry, let me actually point to. You'll note that on car models, I'm not doing the other IDs yet. I'm just doing the primary key field and the car model field. So let's switch back over to my laptop screen. All right, we're in table car models. I'm just going to type in the models. Civic, Mustang, Odyssey, 6 Camry, Tucson, and the Colorado. Awesome. Okay, cool. So now in our database, we have 3 different tables. We have car makes, car models, and this not so random table colors. We'll get to that soon. Now, here we go. Remember, when we were looking at our PowerPoint, we did this and we linked them. How in the world do you do that in Access? Super easy. So let's go back to our database, and we're going to go, now remember, we have to remember the parent and the child relationship. So the parent's over here. The child is going to point back to the parent. The parent does not point to the child, right, in a one-to-many. So the car make is just standing alone. The child is going to point back to the parent. So let's go over here to Access. We're going to go to our children, which is car models, and we're going to go in design mode. All right, so now we're in design mode. So let me kind of tell you guys, when you become more advanced in your database work, you do not have to do the following. Normally when I train people or teach people, I don't have them go through wizards because wizards are confusing, or they're not confusing, they sometimes hide what's actually happening, and it's hard to grasp an understanding. In this case, this is an exception. We'll use the wizard for now. Eventually, once you get into SQL and data binding, you don't need to use a wizard, but I want you to see as a new user, if you're a new user, how this works, right? What goes on. So, okay, so we're in table car models. Remember, these are the children. These are the children over here. So we're going to modify this table. Right now, we only have the ID and the car model field. So I'm going to add a new thing called FK make ID, just like the thing. Now over here, I'm going to go all the way down to lookup wizard. All right, and it's going to start asking me some questions. So in case the text is small, here's what it says. This wizard creates a lookup field, which displays a list of values you can choose from. How do you want your lookup field to get its values? The first option is generally the one you want to pick, which is I want the lookup field to get the values from another table or query. Hit next. Okay, now we are presented with some tables, and unfortunately, well, actually, not unfortunately, it also shows the table you're starting with, which is car models, and it also shows car makes and car colors. Yes, sometimes you can actually point a table to itself. Let's not. We won't address that right now. Like, it's kind of weird. So remember, the children point back to the parent. So what was the parent? The parent in this case was car makes. So we need to, on this, point to car makes. We're going to point back to that make. Now the next screen says which fields of table car makes contain the values you want included in your lookup field. The fields you select become columns in your lookup field, and you're presented with 2. These are the only 2 columns we made in table car makes. And just to point back, these are the 2 columns we made in table car makes, ID, car makes, and then we are presented all of those columns here. Now we can pick one, we can pick all, we have to pick at least one. So we're going to pick both, and I'm going to show you why. So we're going to pick both the primary key field and something that helps us identify table car makes, right? We're going to hit next. What sort order do you want for the items in your list box? You can sort records by up to 4 fields, either in ascending or descending order. So this sounds really scary. Don't worry about it. What it means is if I hit a drop-down box to select a car make, how do I want it sorted? Generally, I want it sorted by the actual car make, right? The title. I don't want it sorted by the number because, look here, if I had a drop-down list, now I happen to actually put these in alphabetical order, but let's say these weren't in alphabetical order. We had just typed them in whatever way we wanted to. If I sorted by number, well, then they would be out of alphabetical order. But I can tell Access, sort by the name car make, the field car make. So on the screen, I'm going to sort by car make, and I'm only going to sort by car make. I'm going to hit next. Now, how would you like the column in your, how wide would you like the columns in your lookup field? Okay, that's fine. And it has this little check here, hide key column recommended. If I uncheck that, notice it shows me ID, right? That's the 2 fields we chose on the last screen. I'm sorry, the last 2 screens ago, we had ID and car make. Let's zoom over. We sort by car make. How do you want this to look in your lookup field? So let's hide ID. Even though you may not know exactly what's going on, let's just hide that for now. Hit next. Now, what label? FK make ID, don't care. Okay, here's the first part that you can kind of increase the integrity of your database. Remember, when I said back over here, if we go in and delete this parent, that's bad, right? Because now we have 2 orphans. We have 2 children pointing to a parent that no longer exists in the database. Well, you can prevent that with this option here, which is enable data integrity. Now, there are two options. There is cascade delete and restrict delete. I personally never use cascade delete. You may be braver than I. What does that mean? Cascade delete means if I am in the database and I happen to delete Honda, it will automatically delete all of these children. That's cascade delete. Now, there may be situations, I don't know why, but there may be some kind of strange situation where you're working in the database and maybe, let's say, you didn't mean to delete a parent or something. Just personally, I don't like the database deleting things automatically. I want to control it myself, so I never enable that option. However, an option that is good is restrict delete. And all that does is if you go to a parent table and try to delete this, well, Access is going to check all the links real quick, and it's going to like, oh, hey, no, you can't do that. You can't delete Honda because there are 2 children, right? So you're going to have to do something else. So that is a good option to have. Now, on this option, well, you'll understand later. If you do things the advanced way, you actually don't get this option in Access, but that's neither here nor there, maybe a future lesson. So we're going to do enable data integrity, and we're going to do restrict delete. And we're going to do, now, there is an option here. If you do not do data integrity called allow multiple values, that lets you pick multiple values when you're doing a drop down. I rarely say never, but this is one of those times. Never, never use the multiple value option. Why did Microsoft put that in there? It is for people who do not know how to use join tables. It is to make it easy for them. Trust me, it will ruin your life. Don't ever use that option. Just use enable data integrity, follow this channel, and you'll learn exactly how to do lots of join tables. It's not that big of a deal. Again, that was for people who just don't have time to, don't want to talk to other databases, and they're just making something super quick. It's a really bad practice. So I'm going to hit restrict delete. I'm going to hit finish. It's going to warn me. Yep, got to save the table. Okay, now let's look at this table. Now we have car models, and we have this brand new spiffy field called make ID. You know what? And let's make this font bigger so you guys can actually see this. Oh, all right. Okay, cool. Sorry about that, guys. Now we have this. Now when I go here, oh, cool. Look at this. All the options that are in my parent table are now available to me. So we know the Honda is a Civic. We know the Mustang is a Ford. We know the Odyssey is a Honda. We know the Mazda 6 is a Mazda, Camry, Toyota, and Tucson Hyundai, and then the Colorado Chevrolet. Awesome. That is how we make parent-child data relations. Now we can close this table. Let's save. Now check this out. Let's go back to the parent table called car makes. And you will notice, let me increase this font as well. You will notice there are now pluses here, whereas before there were not pluses. This is Access trying to be helpful in telling you, hey, there are children to this car make. So if I hit this plus on, I have 2 children under Honda, Civic and Odyssey. And what it's doing, it's looking at the child table and saying, hey, there's some info here about these children. Now, you may feel warm and fuzzy about that, and that's fine. It's just something helpful. I personally do not like that. I do not like that feature on my parent table, so there is a way to get rid of it. Let's go to design mode on table car makes. Over here, there's this option called sub data sheet name. I'm just going to turn that off. I'm going to double click, hit none, save the table, and now I'm back to just my normal table. So why did I do that? Well, you have to realize that when you're setting up these kind of table examples, a parent can have children in lots of different tables. So for instance, let's say you have a car make, and then you have a table called favorite trims, right? Like favorite or trims from that car make, not in addition to a car model, and they both point to this table. Well, you can have children in multiple tables, and it gets weird. So I like to keep my view pure, I guess, for lack of a better term. And so I turn off subdata sheets, right? So I just want to see table car makes. Okay, there are my makes. Let's look at my model table, and we have ID car model. And then a foreign key pointing to the make. So now I can look at this table and I can see Honda, Ford, Honda, Mazda, Toyota, Hyundai, Chevrolet, right? They are now doing this. They are now pointing back. If I look at Civic, I know that Honda is its parent. If I look at Mustang, I know that Ford is its parent. Now, let me show you something cool. One of the cool things about databases that you may not realize. Okay, notice Civic and Odyssey, I misspelled Odyssey. Let's spell that properly because that is annoying, belong to Honda. What if Honda merges with Nissan and Mitsubishi, if you follow the news, and they come up with a new company called Honda Mitsusan, right? Honda Mitsusan is now the new name of this company. And so we go to this table car makes and edit it to Honda Mitsusan. Now, do we have to go to car models and change all that stuff? Watch this. No, we do not. That is one of the powers of a relational database, is because this foreign key is pointing back to the parent, right? Pointing back to that ID. It knows that I've updated Honda, the car make, to Honda Mitsusan, and therefore the car models automatically update. Eat that, Excel people. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love Excel. That's one of the many benefits for databases, is that if you have set up your data relations properly, using proper keys, proper foreign keys, proper primary keys, then you can do weird stuff like this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to delete Honda Mitsusan. What if the company name was absolutely blank? What happens in table car models? Look at this. The make has disappeared. Now, you may think, aha, you just made an orphan? No, I didn't. Because here's one thing where you have to understand. Even though this dropdown is showing me the car make name, it's really pointing to the number. That's all it's remembering in this column. It's not remembering Ford, it's remembering 2. So this column shows me Ford because I'm a human and I may not remember what 2 means, but I know what Ford is. So it's showing me the number 2. Likewise, if I go here and try to delete 3, even though it's blank, but there's an ID here, and I'm going to hit delete. Now remember, we had set up data integrity to where it should not let us do this. So even though my make, well, let's change this back so this is more clear. So let's change it back. Okay, Honda decided to back out of the merger. Car models, we refresh the list. There we go. They're both rocking Hondas now. Now let's say I'm one of these people and I'm mad that Honda did not merge with me, and I'm going to hit delete. There you go. The record cannot be deleted or changed because table car models includes related records. That's this thing over here. Access is seeing that you just tried to delete Honda, and it says, oh, wait, there's a Civic and an Odyssey that are pointing back to that number. You can't do that. It's going to prevent you from doing that. That is a good thing. We do not want orphans in our database. So that is it. That is the basic, very, very basic data relations in Access. There's much more to come. But we've gone ahead and set up these. Now, I'm going to actually, if you guys want, we're going to set up one more table. So check this out. Now, remember, again, in episode 1.1, I believe, table basics, each table is basically very unique and specific to itself. Well, we have table car makes, table car models, and colors. Well, why do we have these colors? Well, we're going to make one more table called inventory. So let's pretend we're running a car lot, and we have an inventory of cars to sell, right? So ID, auto number, PK, and then, now, a table can have multiple foreign keys. It can only have one primary key. It can have multiple foreign keys. So if I wanted a table that's describing my inventory, well, how do I describe my inventory? Well, if I point to the car model, I already know the make, right? So let's do FK car model. We're going to go to, you can either start typing or you can use the drop-down lookup wizard. Now I'm going to use car models. I'm going to point to that, And I'm going to say, give me the ID of that car model and just the name. I don't need to bring in FK make ID because I can get that later through the magic of SQL. And I'm going to sort by car model. I'm going to hide the key column. I'm doing all this good, good, good. Yep, finish. Yep, save the table. This is TBL inventory. Now, every car model has to have a color. So now oh wait, I don't want to bring that in. Oh, that's weird. Okay, one moment. Technical difficulty. I'm going to pause. Okay, so I have resumed. We had kind of a weird thing here. So basically, I had a bad link. I will show you guys how to fix that in a future video, promise. Let's do that again. So table inventory, we're going to do FK car model. I think what it was is I actually named it the key. So anyway, let's do this. Car model, lookup wizard. We're going to look it up again. Let's see if this works again. Bring in the ID and the car model. Don't care about the make. Yes, I care about the model. Sort by the car. Oops, sort by the car model. Hit next. Hide the primary key. Hit next. I think I can do, yeah, I can. Finish. There we go. I'm not sure why it saved two fields the first time. I may have done something weird. Who knows? Okay, now we want to look at the color. Let's do, again, the lookup wizard. We're going to look up table colors. ID and the color name. Don't care about the cost per ounce because I can figure that out later through the magic of SQL. Sort by color name. Yep. Hide the key. Yep. Enable data integrity. Yep. Restrict delete. Yep. Yep. Yeah, so you're going to get this warning. Who cares? All right. Now, this is a table dealing with your current inventory. So what we want to do, again, so each table is very specific and only records a very specific subject. So in our database here, we have several tables now. We have a table just describing colors. We have a table just describing car models. And we have a table describing car makes. Now, if I go to table inventory, you'll notice that it's blank, but this is the inventory of our car lot at the moment. So we have, let's say, a Camry. Oh, let me increase the font size so you guys can see. We have a Camry, and what is the color of the Camry? It is not gray primer, it is green. And then we have a Colorado, and it's going to be black. We have a Civic, and it's going to be fire orange. And then let's say we have another Civic, and it's also going to be fire orange. That is okay. These are two different Civics, both with fire orange. Maybe we'd put a VIN in here or something like that, right? We have an Odyssey. Again, I'm just filling out some fake data in here. We have a Honda 6, and it's yellow. And then we have a Tucson, and it will be lime green. There we go. So that is our inventory, current inventory. Now, these are foreign keys, so these are pointing back to tables. Now, you may sometimes forget how to track these. Not a big deal. Let's save the table. Go to Database Tools and go to Relationships. This is just a tool in Access that helps you visualize what these tables are doing. Now, if you don't see everything, there's a button here, All Relationships. Now, let's look at this. Let's look at all the relationships here. We'll notice that there is a table called Table Car Makes, and you'll notice that the Table Models is next to it. And it has this tiny little 1 and this tiny little infinity sign, 1 to many. That is exactly what we just did here. We said one car make can have many car models. Well, that is what is being relayed here. Likewise, notice inventory is 1 to many. So there is one car model, but you may have lots of models in your inventory of the same model. And then we have table colors, which is there's one color over here, but there may be many of the same color in your inventory table. If it's not making sense, don't worry about it. I just wanted to point this out that this is a tool you can see. Again, it's to see the relationships. Now, earlier when I paused the video, I had to actually go in to inventory and delete these fields. If you try to delete this field, it's going to say, hey, you cannot do that because you've enabled data integrity and there are relationships involved. And it will say, go to the relationship, delete, go to the, let's go to database, relationships view and delete the relationship first. What they're talking about is if I go in here and I try to delete color and it gives me that warning, I go to relationships and this is the relationship, this line right here. You can hit delete on this line and it's going to say, are you sure? You're not deleting data. You're only deleting the relationship or the link, the data integrity link. Once you do that in here, you can come back to here and then delete the field in the table itself. That's what I had to do. It did some weird things. I've never seen Access do that. Anyway, we've gone too far right now. We will continue this on. If you're practicing, just make your tables, try to link them, experiment, always make a backup copy. Thanks for joining so much. If you find this helpful, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and ring the bell for notifications when I publish more stuff. The next one, again, in our main quest here, will be Learn Basic SQL. Trust me, there is a method to the madness. It's going to be super easy, and it's going to be super powerful. Even Basic SQL is very powerful when it comes to databases. Thanks so much. God bless. Have a great day.